Hey guys, welcome back to the Growers Corner. So today I figured we would go ahead and continue our conversation on soil. Last time we talked, we were talking about things like drainage, water retention, nutrient content, and whether or not we were going to do living soil with beneficial bacteria, right? Okay, so let's dive into that a little bit deeper and find out why those things are important, right? So drainage and water retention kind of go hand in hand. They're kind of self-explanatory. The best way that it was ever put to me was to think of it like this. Cannabis plants like to have their feet wet, but they don't like to be standing in a puddle, right? So we need to have a certain amount of water retention built into our soil mixture, whether that be from pea moss, whether that be from natural humus material, whether that be from clay pellets, things like that. Now, we also need to have a certain amount of drainage because we don't want it sopping wet, right? We want to be able to wet the soil, make sure the soil is good and moist, but not sopping wet, right? So there's a couple of ways to do that. My two favorites really are Perlite and Pea Gravel. Pea Gravel is the stuff you used to see at like playgrounds and stuff. Super, super tiny little pebbles. And it's countermount to like smaller versions of river rock. Allows for lots of air pockets to be available to the microbacteria, allow things to grow and break down. It allows for a lot of water to move around the rocks freely and drain effectively. It does, however, add a little bit of weight. Now, when you add perlite, it basically does the same thing. It allows for air pockets and things like that throughout the soil, which accelerates drainage, all these things. But it's also slightly porous so that it holds minute little pieces of water, if you will, on each piece of perlite. Now, that's important because it adds for a quote-unquote long-term water retention situation as well as drainage. Now, nutrient content is something that you can either build into the soil or you can fertilize, every week, every couple of days, etc., etc. If you build it into the soil, you don't have to fertilize as much after the fact with chemicals and fertilizers and all these things. So I like to build my nutrients into my soil to a certain degree. You can do that with natural materials. There are certain growing techniques that involve preparation of soil long before you actually plant for weeks, months, years worth of nutrient feeding without ever having to add anything to the soil. Biodynamics is one of them. There's a couple others that are old world technology, guys. This is stuff that's been around longer than Monsanto. And it's very effective, it's very efficient, it's completely sustainable, and it is very cheap. So there are those methods out there. Now, when you start doing those things, when you start actively building nutrients into the soil as things decompose and break down, whether you want to or not, you are going to cultivate beneficial bacteria. As I had mentioned in the previous video, I try to put extreme mycobacteria in everything that I grow, including my vegetables. It's something that I learned about on like 60 Minutes or something like this 20 plus years ago. I know it's, all hot and raving and it's the new thing now, but this technology has been around for a long time. It actually started out when I discovered it. I was watching a documentary on reforesting, like Brazil, the rainforest, and they had discovered mycobacteria in the root systems in the jungles and rainforests of South America, and realized that, hey, these bacteria are what provide nutrients to these plants. The intermingled root vines, the stuff that's decomposing, the topsoil decomposing, that all adds to the microbacteria in the soil, which creates life or allows for life to be created. And so they started injecting them into barren meat farms, you know what I mean, that had been since plowed and used for cow and meat production. And unfortunately, when you jam that many cows into such a small acreage, the effect of that is that they destroy the ecology of the soil. So this was, and nothing will grow. So this was an effort to restore the soil's health in order to get things to regrow and bring the forest back. Well, it works, and it works really, really well. So again, guys, drainage, water retention, beneficial bacteria, and nutrient content. When building your soil, when planting things, those are the main things to keep in mind. So until next time, keep reading, keep learning. Here's to green gardening, and we'll see you next time.